Welcome to Fred's 10-minute marketing courses.
Today we are discussing over-delivery is the best marketing strategy, written by Fred James.
So if you go to work every day, perfectly hit all your targets, deliver everything on time without a single error, and, do exactly what your clients or your manager ask of you, well, congratulations. You are highly likely the most replaceable person in your entire company.
Yeah, I have to acknowledge the brutal reality of that opening right out of the gate. It is a really harsh truth to swallow,
It really is.
especially for anyone listening right now who prides themselves on being a reliable, dedicated professional. But it perfectly sets up the counterintuitive marketing strategy that Fred James presents to us.
Right.
The idea is that the only way to genuinely survive and thrive, whether you're a massive corporation or just an individual freelancer, is to consistently provide value that structurally exceeds expectations. Doing exactly what you're told it's just no longer enough to keep you safe.
Exactly. And to set the stage for today's discussion, we aren't just talking about abstract theory here. We're not just reciting those feel-good business mantras about, giving 110%.
Right, no empty motivational posters here.
No, definitely not. We are actually dissecting the psychology, the neuroscience, and the hard economics of making your boss and your clients feel like they hit the absolute jackpot by investing in you.
Yeah.
So I want to start by looking at this idea of a perfect job. Like, why is hitting the spec suddenly considered a bad thing? Let's unpack what precise delivery actually means out in the real world.
Yeah, let's define that term first. So Fred James explains that precise delivery, which is doing exactly what is asked of you, no more, no less, is basically merely a passing grade.
Just a C minus, essentially.
Exactly. It is the absolute minimum requirement to not get fired or, to not lose a vendor contract. But crucially, it lacks any competitive power whatsoever. Now, speaking from a senior manager's perspective, I will readily admit that finding an employee who just does what they are told without needing a babysitter feels like a minor miracle some days.
I bet. It's got to be nice to just not worry about it.
It is. It is a huge relief when you don't have to micromanage every single detail. But the thing is, that predictability only manages the baseline. It keeps the machine running, but it absolutely does not create loyalty.
Right.
And it definitely doesn't create long-term irreplaceable value.
Okay, so I actually have to challenge this premise right out of the gate because precise delivery sounds exactly like what consumers want most of the time.
How so?
Well, let's look at the consumer electronics industry as a case study. Say a major brand sells a flagship smartphone, and their marketing heavily advertises exactly a 10-hour battery life under heavy use.
Okay, pretty standard.
Right. And I buy that phone, I use it heavily all day, and I get exactly 10 hours of battery life. I mean, isn't that a massive engineering win? They promised 10 hours, they delivered 10 hours. Why on earth is that considered uncompetitive?
Well, it is an engineering win, without a doubt. The manufacturing tolerances required to mass produce millions of lithium-ion batteries that hit exactly that specification are incredibly impressive.
Right, it's not easy to do.
Not at all.
But here is where we have to step away from engineering and look at the neurological reality of how human beings actually process value.
Okay, getting into the brain now.
Yeah. Because when reality perfectly matches our expectations, the human brain basically just ignores it. In neuroscience, there is a foundational concept called prediction error.
Wait, meaning the brain is constantly trying to guess the future, like it's always predicting?
Correct. Our brains are essentially prediction machines. They are constantly calculating what will happen next to keep us safe and, optimize our energy.
Makes sense.
So when an event exactly matches the brain's prediction, like your smartphone, lasting exactly the 10 hours you expected, there is zero prediction error. The equation perfectly balances.
And so nothing happens. Exactly. Because there is no error, the brain does not release any dopamine. You feel absolutely nothing. It is just filed away. It's completely normal.
Wait, let me make sure I'm fully grasping this. So by hitting the spec perfectly, I'm actually training the client or the consumer to completely ignore me.
Yes.
Because it did exactly what I expected, I don't feel any joy or excitement about it. I mean, that's terrifying from a marketing perspective.
It really should be terrifying. Because that 10-hour battery life isn't a selling point anymore. It just becomes the don't get angry baseline.
Wow, yeah.
You aren't going to call your friends and rave about how your phone lasted exactly as long as the box said it would. You expect it. And because there is no dopamine hit, there is zero emotional attachment to that brand. You are just using a tool.
Right, it's just a utility at that point.
Precisely. If a competitor releases the exact same phone with the exact same specs for a slightly lower price, well, the customer will switch instantly without a single second of hesitation.
Because they have no loyalty.
Right. They will treat the original brand as a transparent, replaceable standard part simply because the brand failed to generate any emotional loyalty through a positive prediction error.
Gosh, that paints a very stark picture. You are just a commodity at that point, entirely interchangeable.
You are.
But, this leads to a major concern for me. If perfectly meeting the specs makes you a replaceable commodity, does that mean you have to work endless unpaid overtime just to survive?
Ah, the classic fear.
Yeah, doesn't mean giving away free work just to stand out. Because from a frontline marketer's perspective, that sounds like a one-way ticket to instant burnout.
That is the exact trap so many ambitious people fall into. They assume that over-delivery means infinite volume. But the answer is a resounding no.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah, the strategy is not about increasing your hours or working yourself into a hospital bed. It is entirely about managing the baseline expectation itself.
Okay, so how does that work?
Well, Fred James introduces this brilliant, highly sustainable principle. You use 80% of your energy to create a 120% feeling of value.
80% energy, 120% feeling.
Exactly. You see, expectations aren't fixed numbers carved in stone. They are a highly malleable psychological state. And they are basically shaped by two primary forces.
Which are?
The objective market, which is what your competitors are currently offering, and your subjective communication.
Okay, but I'm still channeling the frontline anxiety here. Doesn't managing expectations just mean letting clients treat me as free labor?
Not at all.
Let's say I'm working on a B2B software implementation. My contract clearly states I will deliver 3 custom dashboard features. I shouldn't just build them a 4th feature for free just to exceed expectations, right? That completely devalues my time and my expertise.
You absolutely should not give away massive chunks of free labor. And that brings us to Fred James' golden rule for this entire framework.
Let's hear it.
Never overpromise. The problem most people face isn't their delivery. It's actually their setup. If you hype yourself up and promise a client that you're going to fly, but you only sprint really fast, well, people will still be disappointed.
Oh, that makes total sense.
Right. Even if you break the Olympic world record for sprinting, they expected flight. The goal isn't to constantly increase your maximum physical output to meet astronomical expectations. The goal is to intentionally anchor the expectation lower from the very first conversation.
But wait, if I intentionally lower expectations, don't I just look incompetent? How do I pitch a client if I'm artificially lowering my own bar? I feel like I'd lose the pitch before I even start the work.
Well, that is the nuance right there. You don't promise incompetence. You promise the rock-solid, reliable industry standard.
Okay, so you just promise the baseline.
Right. You tell the client, we will deliver a fully functional, secure-to-be software integration that meets your 3 core requirements within 30 days. That is a strong, competent, professional promise.
Yeah, that sounds totally normal.
What you do not say is, this software is going to revolutionize your entire company culture, double your revenue overnight, and, cook you breakfast.
Right.
You leave the revolutionary part unsaid. You anchor them to a realistic baseline, leaving yourself 20% of your bandwidth to actually surprise them later.
So you manage their mental model before you even open your laptop. Let's look at a massive tech case study that perfectly illustrates this, specifically in the Silicon Valley AI space.
Oh, perfect example. There's been a lot of that lately.
Yes, we've seen some spectacular failures recently. You have these AI tech companies that hype their new models to the moon, releasing these highly edited marketing videos claiming their AI has human reasoning and can flawlessly automate your entire business operation.
Setting the bar incredibly high.
Literally in outer space. Then the user gets their hands on it, the AI hallucinates some basic data or entirely fails to grasp a complex business context, and the public backlash is massive. But the crazy thing is, the company actually delivered incredible cutting-edge technology. But because the expectation was so absurdly high, it felt like a total failure.
They completely violated the golden rule. They massively overpromised, generating a negative prediction error in the user's brain. The user expected a literal genius and got, a slightly confused intern.
Exactly. Now, contrast that failure with a winning scenario. Another company pragmatically positions their new AI tool as just a basic digital assistant.
Okay, much lower bar.
Right. They tell the user, this will help you with mundane data sorting and drafting simple emails. They intentionally anchor the expectation quite low, but still useful.
Smart.
So the user starts using it for basic sorting, expecting very little. But then, while sorting data, the AI suddenly flags a hidden accounting error deep in their cash flow spreadsheet that the user had missed for weeks.
Oh, that is the goosebumps moment right there. That feeling of sudden, unexpected rescue.
Yes. Because the expectation was managed and anchored low, that sudden, unexpected display of high-level competence creates a massive positive prediction error.
And there's the dopamine hit.
Exactly. The brain is flooded with dopamine. It creates immediate deep trust and emotional loyalty. The user feels like they have discovered a hidden gem, like a secret weapon.
That's a huge win.
Right. The AI company didn't have to invent an infallible superintelligence. They just had to manage the baseline expectations so that their actual capability felt like magic.
Okay, so getting a dopamine hit is great for the client, and I love the psychology behind that surprise factor. But let's be real, dopamine doesn't pay my company's server bills.
Fair point.
Right, doesn't make payroll.
Yeah.
How does this surprise factor actually translate to pricing and keeping a business afloat? Because you can't just run an enterprise on good vibes.
You certainly cannot. And that leads us to the underlying economics of the good deal. Fred James breaks this down into the balance between consumer surplus and producer surplus.
Okay, Economics 101.
Yeah, let's use a very everyday example to visualize this math before we get into complex B2B sales. Imagine you are traveling and you desperately want a pair of high-end noise-canceling headphones for a long flight. In your mind, you are willing to pay up to $300 for the peace and quiet.
Okay, so 300 is my maximum willingness to pay.
Exactly. You walk into a store and you find the exact premium headphones you wanted, but they are priced at $200.
Oh, nice.
That $100 difference between what you were willing to pay and what you actually paid is your consumer surplus. It is the quantifiable economic math behind that emotional feeling of, wow, I just got a total steal.
Okay, I'm with you.
Now, on the other side, the manufacturer needs to cover their materials, labor, and shipping. Let's say their absolute lowest acceptable baseline cost to make those headphones is $100.
Right.
If they sell them for $200, their producer surplus is $100. They make a healthy profit, and you feel like you won the lottery. Both sides win.
I see. So both sides of the equation are winning. But let me put my frontline B2B sales hat on for a second.
Go for it.
In huge B2B software deals, the pressure from competitors is just intense. If our ultimate goal as marketers and salespeople is to maximize the buyer's consumer surplus so they get that dopamine hit and feel like they earned a great deal, shouldn't we just aggressively slash our prices to the bone?
Slash prices.
Yeah, like just undercut the competition to zero to win the bid and guarantee the client feels that massive surplus.
Oh, absolutely not. That is the most dangerous misinterpretation of the strategy possible.
Really?
Let's look at a B2B cybersecurity software example to illustrate why that is fatal. Imagine you are selling enterprise security, and through your research, you discover a client's maximum budget to solve a critical vulnerability is $1 million.
Okay, big budget.
If you come in and quote them $600,000, you have instantly generated $400,000 in consumer surplus. The client is thrilled, right? They look brilliant to their board of directors.
Yeah, they saved a ton of money.
But what if a competitor bids $500,000 and you panic? What if you slash your price down to your bare bones cost of $200,000 just to guarantee you win the bid?
Well, then I've completely destroyed my producer surplus. I mean, I'm making zero margin. I'm doing the work just to keep the lights on, but I'm not actually advancing the company.
Exactly. So you'd be cannibalizing your own company's future just to give the client a temporary thrill.
You've hit the nail on the head. Price slashing is an incredibly toxic cycle. When you destroy your producer surplus, you trigger one of two fatal outcomes.
What's the first one?
First, you kill your company's ability to innovate. Because there is no profit left to invest in research and development, your product will inevitably become obsolete in a few years.
And that's bad.
Or second, and unfortunately even more commonly, you push the cost onto your own employees. Because the company is making money on the contract, they can't hire more help.
So the existing team just has to suffer.
Right. The existing employees have to work miserable, unpaid overtime to fill the resource void created by the slashed price. Unless you are a venture-backed tech giant burning billions of dollars specifically to wipe out competitors in a war of attrition, slashing prices to the bone is corporate suicide.
So it's literally a race to the bottom where everybody eventually loses. I mean, the client might get a cheap product today, but the vendor goes out of business tomorrow, leaving them without any support.
Precisely. The real marketing strategy here is not to slash the price on the bottom. It is to stack value on top.
Stack value on top. I like that.
Yeah. You keep your price healthy to protect your producer surplus, ensure your company can actually innovate and treat its employees well.
Go.
But you increase the perceived value through managed expectations and strategic overdelivery, so the consumer surplus remains massive.
Right.
It ensures a sustainable win-win. You thrive economically, and the client feels brilliant for hiring you.
Stack value on top. Don't slash the price on the bottle. I seriously need to write that on a sticky note for my monitor.
It's a good rule to live by.
So we've looked at external B2B and B2C clients, but Fred James points out something fascinating here. The most powerful and ironically the most overlooked battlefield for this entire strategy is actually right inside your own office.
It really is a massive blind spot for most professionals. We spend so much energy, time, and budget trying to hack the psychology of external buyers. But we forget that our careers, our promotions, and our daily stress levels are largely dictated by internal buyers.
Like our bosses.
Exactly. Our managers, our cross-functional partners, our executives. Using the over-delivery framework on your boss and colleagues is profoundly effective.
Okay, but how?
Well, delivering 120% value internally isn't cheapening your worth or being a pushover. It is actively marketing your personal brand to earn a highly scarce, incredibly valuable currency: trust.
You know, if you are listening to this right now on your commute or maybe sitting at your desk, you might be rolling your eyes.
Oh, I'm sure some people are.
Because let's be real, a lot of people are going to ask, why bother doing extra internally? The common perception is that because you have a fixed salary, doing more just invites more work.
Right. The reward for good work is more work.
Yeah. You do a great job, you finish early, and your reward is just getting handed the tasks of the coworkers who do a terrible job.
I hear that complaint constantly when mentoring junior staff. And it is a completely valid fear if you are just blindly taking on more volume. But doing more of the same boring work is not strategic over-delivery.
Okay, so what is it then?
Let me walk you through an internal corporate case study to show you how a manager actually reacts to this when it's done right. Imagine it is the end of the quarter. An employee is tasked with submitting a standard Q3 competitor market share report.
Okay, a very standard, honestly slightly tedious corporate task.
Very much so. Now let's look at precise delivery. This looks like the employee submitting the report exactly on time at 5 p.m. on Friday. The formatting is flawless, the numbers are perfectly accurate, and it perfectly meets the stated requirements of the assignment.
Sounds like a solid employee.
It is the 100% baseline. It is a good job. But remember the neuroscience. It generates zero dopamine for the manager.
Because there's no surprise.
Exactly. It's just a box checked. The manager looks at it, says fine, and moves on.
So what does over-delivery look like in this scenario without the employee spending their entire weekend crunching extra data and burning themselves out?
Over-delivery is when, on the final page of that perfectly formatted report, the employee adds a single, concise, proactive insight.
Just one insight.
Just one. They write a short paragraph saying they noticed our main competitor has been heavily hiring healthcare AI engineers on LinkedIn over the last month.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they point out that this strongly signals a pivot into digital healthcare, and then they briefly outline 2 strategic defensive options for our own product line to prepare for this shift.
Oh, wow. I mean, that entirely changes the nature of the document.
Completely. Imagine the manager reading that. It's Friday afternoon, they are drowning in operational fires, stressing about the future, and they open this routine report expecting a mindless data dump.
Right.
Suddenly, they see this insight. The emotional reaction is a visceral sigh of relief. The manager realizes they aren't alone in steering the ship.
That's huge.
The employee instantly shifts in the manager's mind from being a mere executor, someone who just processes data, to a strategic navigator.
A strategic navigator?
Yes, the manager realizes this person is looking around corners, protecting the team's blind spots. It creates an irreplaceable compounding trust dividend. And when you earn that specific type of strategic trust, you don't just get handed more mindless busy work.
No, I imagine you get the good stuff.
Exactly. You become the absolute first choice for future promotions, for leading the high visibility projects, and for controlling major resources.
You basically prove that you are an investment with a guaranteed high return rather than just an operational expense. It really makes you realize that all these fancy new software programs, the AI tools, the automation platforms we obsess over, they are just tools. Tools are just accelerator.
That's all they are.
They help you reach that boom line of precise delivery faster, but they're not the steering wheel. Your ultimate future-proof competitive advantage, the thing AI absolutely cannot replace, is your grasp on delivering value that structurally exceeds expectations.
That is the perfect synthesis of Fred James' work. The tools we use will keep changing every 6 months, but fundamental human psychology does not.
Nope.
The dopamine hit of a positive prediction error, that feeling of delightful surprise, will always be the most valuable currency in any market.
Absolutely.
So I want to leave you with a provocative thought to test this out in your own life. Tomorrow, when you face a routine task for a boss or a to-be client, a task where you normally just hit the baseline and move on, try applying the framework we discussed today.
Just test it out.
Yeah. Consciously anchor their expectation lower, using only 80% of your capacity. Then, use that remaining bandwidth to deliver a 120% surprise.
Right.
It doesn't have to be a massive overhaul. It could just be a small workflow optimization, a slightly better design layout, or a quick risk warning they hadn't considered. Just try it once and watch how instantly and dramatically their perception of you shifts.
Thank you for listening. If you have any thoughts on today's episode or marketing topics, feel free to leave a comment below the video. This is Fred's 10-Minute Marketing Courses. See you next time.